Oh, they are starting to file in. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Trying to see if I was muted or not. There we go.
I can hear you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks to everyone who's joining us this evening. We'll start in a few minutes. We'll let everyone get logged in here. It's nice to see sunshine and the birds chirping right now. When we were doing these presentations just a few months ago, it was pitch black outside at 6. So seems a lot earlier.
It's a pretty night tonight.
We're hoping that the snow that is melted isn't coming back.
Agreed.
Thank you for those of you that are logging in and joining us for our Kindergarten and Young Fives Information Night. We'll get started here in just a couple minutes. We still see a few people trickling in just now, but it's just now 6 o'clock, so we'll start in just a couple more minutes.
We've had a couple questions about if your mics are on. Your mics are not on, so everyone is muted. We cannot hear you, so rest assured, if you have babies crying or something's going on, it's all good.
Okay, well, I think we'll get started. The first part is just some introductions anyway. So for those folks that are going to be trickling in the next few minutes, we thank you for joining us for our Dexter Early Elementary, Kindergarten, and Young Fives Information Night. So if you are here, that means that you have a child that is turning 5 or has turned 5 and are getting ready to join us either at Anchor or Beacon in the fall. So my name is Brooke Stidham. I'm the principal at Anchor and Beacon, and with me is Katie Hakela, who is our assistant principal. So we'll talk a little bit about ourselves in just a moment, but just to go over our agenda today, we'll take a peek inside what kindergarten looks like. I know a question that is often on everyone's mind is whether should I choose Young Fives or kindergarten? So we'll talk a little bit about the difference in those, logistics with the enrollment process, some more logistical questions about what it looks like to be a Dexter student. And then if we have some time at the end, or if there are things that we haven't quite covered, we'll be able to take some of your questions. So it is a webinar, so we can't see you or hear you, but if you have questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A. While I'm talking, Katie will be monitoring and vice versa. So if we don't answer your question right away, it might mean that we're coming up to it, or we'll get to it at a more appropriate time. So again, thank you for joining us. So if you've driven down Dan Hoy Road, you have seen our wonderful deck complex. It is the Dexter Early Elementary building. It is both Anchor and Beacon, and we are connected by 2 beautiful spaces called our marketplace and our workshop, and that's what's there in the center. So this building opened in 2019, and so we are lucky to have this amazing Young Fives through 2nd grade complex. So like I said a moment ago, my name is Brooke Stidham. This is actually my first year in Dexter, but I have been a principal now. I think this is year 6. Before that, taught 1st and 2nd grade for many, many years. So I also spent some time in preschool and then also up with some 8th graders. So we have the gamut, but also I'm a parent. My daughter is currently a student over at Creekside. My husband is actually a Dexter alum as well. So we have loved being back into the community this year, and just an outwarming welcoming. So our staff is phenomenal. And then joining me in January was Katie Hakela.
Hi. So I have been in Dexter. I'm coming up on 10 years. I started out in early elementary. I spent quite a few years at the middle school level. I moved up to the high school and did some special programs up there. And now I'm really excited to be back down in the elementary building and working with Brooke and all the students here. My husband and I are both from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, but we have been down here for quite a long time. We go up there a lot to visit. That's kind of our thing. And yeah, so just happy to be here. Happy to get to meet all of you in person at some point.
Absolutely. That's what makes these so tricky. So we'll just tell you that you'll see lots of information coming between the spring months, either from myself or Katie, sometimes through the registrar's office. So if you've communicated with Hope, she runs out of Bates, out of the administration office, but a lot of the people that you will deal with are our amazing secretaries, and anyone that has been into a school building knows that these are really the true heroes of the operations. So Sarah Hunt and Tori Hoffman are our lead secretaries, and they're taking care of a lot of the enrollment pieces. So you might be getting emails from them. They are quick to respond to your questions, but also Jen Boyce and Sue Gowan are also amazing help as well. So it takes the team of 6 of us to keep this machine rolling well, but they're happy to answer any of your questions, and when you see them through the hallway. I did contemplate putting our picture from our Fun Spirit Day last week on here. It was our first team picture, but we had tutus and tie-dyed shirts and tiaras, and we had a whole Tutu Tuesday, a Spirit Day. So you can tell they are a fun group to have as well.
Yes, definitely.
So let's take a peek inside kindergarten. So a lot of what we will be sharing with you in the next few slides, although it says kindergarten, a lot of this is also interchangeable with Young Fives, and we'll talk about that as well, what kind of their routine looks like. But as you can see, it is a fun, lively place to be. We have amazing staff. This year, we currently have 11 sections of kindergarten and 5 sections of Young Fives. Those numbers do fluctuate just based on our enrollment and our needs. each year. But if you are a Dexter resident, then you have a welcome spot, and we will staff appropriately. Our class sizes are only about 20 students in our kindergarten classes, and then cap this year at about 15 for our young fives. So we love to keep our class sizes small because it really allows us to get to know the students and individualize their learning in the classroom. So we view kindergarten as a place for us to really spend some time working on those foundational skills to better enhance their academic and their social learning across their K-12 experience here at Dexter. There are a lot of routines and learning how to do school. Obviously, we're following the Common Core state standards as far as the curriculum for reading, math, writing standards. So they're getting a rich curriculum experience, but we also spend a lot of time focusing on the social emotional development. It's very play-based. There's a lot of choice involved because we want students to love learning. And we know that every student coming in to kindergarten is going to be at their own pace and have their own individual needs. So you'll hear a lot about the teachers talking about common expectations, what is expected and unexpected behaviors. We work to reinforce those and introduce those routines as early as day one into the kindergarten setting. So when your students join us, a typical day of learning often looks like coming into the classroom with a morning meeting. We really want to build a classroom community, and then beyond that, a really strong school community. So we have the first half hour to 40 minutes of every school day devoted just for classroom time to have that morning meeting. So they'll often be in their circle time, as they may have called it in preschool, where they'll do a share, they'll play an activity. They really spend probably the first 6 weeks of school getting really to know each other's names and using those names and knowing about their backgrounds to create this inclusive environment. As far as literacy, we do a lot of read alouds, a lot of interactive reading. So the teachers are encouraging them to participate in the story. There's center activities, there's guided reading. It'll be amazing when you let your kids join with us that first day in September, and they'll be readers by the end of the school year. So it's really amazing the growth that they have academically as far as their phonemic awareness, phonics skills. We use zoo phonics in our Young Fives program, where we talk about, we connect it with an animal. So Bubba Bear says buh, 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 and there's a picture and some motions that go along with it. So we start that in Young Fives, carry that into the beginning of our kindergarten year, and then it's a very good transition into the reading decodable text towards the end of the school year. We also do some writing. So we start with Writer's Workshop. We focus on handwriting. And then for math, we do use the everyday math curriculum. But again, that's a lot of center-based. Our teachers know that the students aren't sit and get. They're kindergarten. They're 4 or 5 years old. So they have a shorter attention span. So we have a lot of mini lessons where it's 10, 15 minutes of direct instruction and then they're off doing. Or it might even be a 5-minute lesson to give some directions, and then the teacher goes from center to center to help and differentiate as well. What's also very exciting, I mentioned our deck building, having these wonderful workspaces. In those, we can do a lot of unique science and STEM activities. We've got a garage door that opens up so they can be in and outside of the building to do some exploratory learning. Just last week, our first graders had a blow-up planetarium in the space, and they were talking about constellations and stars. So there's lots of unique experiences that the students can get that way as far as science and STEM. We do utilize iPads. We have one-to-one technology integration. An app that you'll often hear teachers use is Seesaw, which is really a digital portfolio for students to take pictures of their work or record themselves. And teachers also use it to communicate with some newsletters and things. But that's used very sparingly throughout the school day. I would say and probably a half hour max throughout the day. And that's not even at one time. It might be 10 minutes to listen to an audiobook and 10 minutes to take a picture and record what they did in writing. Or they could even, they were building in our media special, the library special the other day, and they were designing castles and then taking pictures and sharing how their collaborative learning was. And so not every student can take their castle home, but this was their way of getting to document what they did and label and share with their families. So I do know that we are very mindful of the technology we're using and how we're using it. So it really is used to enhance our educational experience, because we know they also need to move. So we have a lot of movement breaks throughout the day. There's a lot of logical transitions that allow for movement. Sometimes it might just be a quick activity to, line up in the classroom and do a few jumping jacks or deep calming breaths. Other times we are outside 2 to 3 times a day for recess. But if it's a rainy day or there's thankfully we didn't have too many super cold days where we can't go outside. We do have movement trails throughout the building, lots of different spaces for them to engage in some activities that way throughout the day. So lots of movement. So we also have a variety of ways that we can teach these skills to our students. So we have some whole group learning, like I said, and these are usually short 10 to 15-minute lessons, lots of small groups, some individual work, but also a lot of one-on-one time with the teacher. So sometimes they'll have center activities set up so that the teacher can circulate around the room and read with each student while they're either, here you can see they're reading on Epic or they're doing some phonics work. But we really get to understand their individual strengths and opportunities for growth. So even assessments for us to understand their learning is often given one-on-one with the teacher. But like I mentioned earlier, really woven throughout our whole day in Young Fives in kindergarten is the social emotional piece. Our goal in lower elementary is really to focus on the whole child and understanding that the needs of all of our children are very different. So behaviorally, academically, socially, each child comes in with their own skill set and some areas that we can help grow and develop over the years. We are working across the deck to teach the students about the zones of regulation. So that's part of our social emotional framework. And along with that, we teach them how to feel like when you are in the green zone and you're happy, what does that feel like? What does that look like? If you're starting to get agitated, what are some signs of being in the yellow zone? And how can we help you when you're getting a little silly or getting frustrated? But we also want to make sure that we're mindful of what each child needs. So maybe, we're in the yellow zone and we need to use a wobble stool. So once we can have these different pieces in place, then it really helps them access the curriculum better. And like I said, each child is different. Some students need to wander around the back of the room during a read aloud. It doesn't mean they're not listening, but that means that we can help reach them where they are. We also use parts of our Trails curriculum, which is developed from the University of Michigan. And so if you have older students throughout the district, this is a piece that's sort of woven through K-12 academics. But in terms of the social emotional development, we also look at logical consequences when it comes to discipline. So sometimes that's a question we get is, what's our philosophy? Our philosophy is that any type of behavior is really a way for the children that are communicating with us. So we need to help them and teach them how to engage with their peers, engage with their teachers to help them learn. So we look at a lot of logical consequences. So there's very few, like when Katie and I were in school, send to the principal's office. That happens very, very rarely. Teachers are working on building this very collaborative culture so that we will, if they knock down someone's blocks at center time, the teachers will talk to the student about how to develop empathy with their peers and trying to repair that relationship. So you might hear your students talk about an apology of action. So sometimes that might just mean saying, hey, that was really a bummer. bummer because I worked really hard on those blocks, and for the other child to write a letter or even offer a hug, for them to repair that relationship and move forward. So obviously there is sort of a spectrum when it comes to behavior, but we know that all behavior is communication. And so we'll work with the child, the teacher, and the family to help meet those needs. So in terms of the other elective areas that your students will get throughout the day, they will also engage in 65 minutes of special area time away from their classroom teacher. So they will rotate through music, art, phys ed, and library. In library, we also do some tech skills as well. So they're learning how to code robots and use some of those apps that we discussed. So we shared a little bit about movement breaks as well. Our students do go outside every day. So I know that might be different depending on what preschool or daycare your students are at right now, but even in the winter time, thankfully we're getting close to 50 degrees, so it's a little different, but we do ask that you pack plenty of warm weather gear because the kids are outdoors once or twice a day. But the more that you can practice with your children to zip up their own coats and put their own boots on, the quicker those routines will take place in the winter time next year as well. But lots of movement inside and outside. We have wonderful outdoor learning spaces as well. So there's some covered pavilions and also some tree stumps. So different areas that our students do some more exploratory learning. If any of you walk around the playgrounds in the fall, we had a half-grown pumpkin patch at one point too. They were digging up pumpkin seeds and seeing how that would take off. So it might look messy, but they are learning in those spaces. All right, so what's the difference between kindergarten and young fives? So this is a question that we get asked a lot, and really it depends very much on each individual child. So there's no cookie cutter answer to say, this is the birth date, go to young fives. You know your child best. So we'll give you a few snippets and then to help you decide. But Katie and I can also answer any questions that you might have as it pertains to your individual children. So we do have a few different programming options. So for kindergarten, it is an all-day program. It is 5 full days a week from 8 to 3, all-day kindergarten. Then young fives, we have an all-day option as well, same time, 8 to 3, but we also have a half-day morning young fives class. So if you're not quite sure if your child is ready for the full day experience and you're able to provide transportation, then half-day could also be an option. So if your child's birthday is before May 31st, then they will be in kindergarten. So if they have a January to June birthday, right now they're already starting to turn 5, they will be heading to kindergarten. If you have a summer birthday between June, July, and August, those are the times where you really can choose between young fives and kindergarten. If it falls after September 1st, September 1st is actually the state deadline for what they like kindergarten, the cutoff for kindergarten to be, then we highly recommend at that point, a September to December 1st birthday goes to young fives. Any child that has a birthday after September 1st, we need to have a waiver on file in the school. So although this sounds sort of scary and intimidating, it's just a piece of paper that we have on file with the state that says, we understand when your child's birthday is, we've agreed on this decision. Even if it's young fives, it's just a document that we need to have. So if your child has a birthday at the end of September and you know you want to do young fives, it's a quick form that our secretaries can send you and we'll just sign off because that's what we recommend as well. If you have a birthday in October or November and you really think your child, they're reading, they've been in preschool, they are keeping up with their peers, and you think, okay, maybe we should go to kindergarten instead of young fives, then that might be a quick phone call or email decision that you and I make, and then we can sign the waiver in that way. However, if your child's birthday is after December 1st, they're no longer eligible for kindergarten this coming school year. That is a firm date by the state, and we really don't have any wiggle room there. So there's the first guide for young fives or kindergarten is where does my child's birthday fall? So in young fives, it's really the bridge between preschool and kindergarten. So we understand that we are coming off of, dare I say, post-pandemic years, in that you're if this is a younger child, or maybe it wasn't what you were planning, that through these COVID times, maybe they didn't have preschool as much as you would have liked, then perhaps young fives would be a better option for them. If they've been in preschool the entire time, then maybe kindergarten is okay. But really, with young fives in kindergarten, that social emotional piece is really what we look at first, even above academics. I know that there are some students who, talking to parents over the years, so they're reading, they can color, they can write their name, but they really have a hard time getting along with their peers. They don't know how to follow directions. We're unsure about how to order putting on our gear. In those cases, I would probably say, well, let's try young fives, because young fives really is that bridge. It's a little less structured than kindergarten. It's a little slower pace. And really the goal of our curriculum is to expose them to it. It's okay if your child has some academic skills, but not quite mastered, even before they go in young fives or kindergarten. That's why you're sending them to school, and we will help them grow and flourish in wherever they are. So that preschool is often very play-based, very choice-based, with less demands. Where kindergarten, they will have a routine to follow. We will have certain times on the board. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog barking. I knew this was going to happen. So you will have, more structure and routine and guidelines that will follow that child throughout the day. And then young fives is sort of that bridge in the middle. So with half day, the day is shorter. So they will go home before lunch. So that means they have shorter periods of time for activities. The lessons are much shorter, and often will take longer periods of time to complete an activity. So I'm comparing the two classes. Our teachers are all phenomenal, and they try to stay on pace with a lot of the same activities. So one activity they always do in the fall is they learn to retell, and they do the story of the Little Red Hen. It's predictable, it's routine, and they do some art projects, they act it out, they love to have Mrs. Stidham come listen to it. So, but it would take multiple class periods for the half-day students, whereas the other classrooms might be able to expand on that a little bit more, because it will be full day. They might get to act it out, where the half-day class wouldn't have as much time to do so. They will also receive specials, but they'll only get 30 minutes of specials a day. Otherwise, they would be out of our wonderful teacher's classroom even more of the day. And there is not transportation provided at the end of the day. So the students can ride a school bus to school, but must be picked up by a parent or guardian at 11:25. Now this is limited space, because we do just have one section. So on the enrollment page at Dexter Schools, there'll be a pop-up on April 11th. If you're interested in this option, it's only if you're interested in the Young Fives half-day program. We just ask really you complete a Google survey so that we can get a count of how many people are interested.
Okay.
Mrs. Tegla.
All right. So just some logistical information on a typical school day. Our bell schedule at Dexter Early Elementary is 8:14 to 3:06. Students, our half-day dismissal is at 11:40. So when we have half days, students will be going home on the bus or being picked up at 11:40 in the morning. Half day students are not served lunch, and so they go home at that time. Students may enter the building at 7:50 in the morning. So when parents pull up, we ask that they keep their students or keep their kids until 7:50, so we can make sure that we are fully staffed and we have everyone in place to welcome our students into the building at 7:50. There is no before school care available. There is some aftercare available that we'll talk about a little bit later. Students do not have nap time in Young Fives or kindergarten. There are some classes that allow for some quiet time. They might look at some books quietly or do some calm activities after lunch or recess to settle back into learning. But there's no nap time that takes place during the day. For transportation, young 5 and kindergarten students may ride the school bus. So the bus picks up and drops off students at what we call the bus hub. It's a large parking lot that's located right next to our complex, Dexter Early Elementary Complex. Students walk up to the school building and come in, and then they find their location of where they wait in the morning until the school day starts. Transportation posts routes sometime in August. They'll post the routes for pickup and drop off times. They work really, really hard to get everybody's registration in. And so it's really important to get your registration in so that they can make up their routes and be able to post those for all parents to see. And that will be posted on the transportation website that is linked to the Dexter Schools page. Half-day young 5 students may ride the bus to school, and they may ride home on a half day of school. So if there's a half day of school, students may ride home, young 5 students may ride home on the bus those days. So families must complete a transportation registration form. And again, that won't be out until the summer. So there will be a posting about that when you can sign up, and they will start working on bus routes. Food and nutrition. So our students have 30 minutes for lunch daily. They are grouped by grade level. The lunch period ranges from 10:10 to 1:10. We're a little spread out right now so that we can allow for some room for everybody to eat. Your teachers, once your teachers are assigned, they will share out some more specific information about when your child will have lunch. We do offer breakfast. It's available at the beginning of the day at 8 o'clock in the cafeteria. Right now, lunch is provided, breakfast and lunch is provided. We do not know what it's going to be for 2022-23 school year. The cost is unknown, but that information will be made available to you, and it is affordable. And we work with families to make sure that all students have what they need. No lunch for half-day young 5s. So that is something important to remember. Our food and nutrition staff work really, really hard to make sure that the lunches are appropriate for all students. So we have peanut-free tables. We take into consideration allergy and food concerns. You will contact the food and nutrition department in order to make sure that they are aware of these concerns. And they always provide lunches that are nut-free or gluten-free or dairy-free. So that is not something to worry about if your child has some food restrictions. There are free and reduced lunch available. There's availability with that. And so we can also provide forms to fill out in order to move forward with that. Snacks, again, so your teachers, once assigned, they will share out information about snacks in the classroom, when they are, what is available, what is allowed, depending on the students that are in that classroom. There might be some severe allergies, and so there might be some restrictions in place. We always encourage fruits and vegetables. We do have snacks for purchase. And that's available through Dexter Food and Nutrition Office. That's a one-time purchase. Then students have snacks available to them through the year. It's a fruit, a grain, and then a milk or a juice, typically is what that consists of. And if it's nice out, we always like to eat outdoors. So that's something that we've been doing quite a bit of. Birthday treats, we do not do birthday treats. However, your student will get a birthday book and a birthday pencil from either Miss Stidham or I. They get a pencil from their principal, and it's a really nice, they get really excited about it. So it's a really nice tradition we have. Invitations will not be handed out in the classroom. So birthday invitations, that will be done elsewhere, but not in the classroom. For immunization requirements, all immunizations need to be complete before starting school. Emergency plans, you will work with the school nurse and let her know if you have an emergency plan for allergies or diabetes, or there's a variety of reasons you might have an emergency plan in place. Our nurse, Rachel Pearsall, will work with you to make sure that we have that documented correctly, and work with the team to make sure everyone has knowledge of the emergency plan. And so you can email her and provide her with that information as we get closer to the school year.
And just something to add here, if your child does have some specific health needs, there is a place in when you're starting to enroll to indicate that, which also sort of flags it for the school nurse. So I know we will be back come August 1st, getting plans ready for the school year. And so if you have concerns about your child's medical needs, we can meet anytime prior to school. So it doesn't mean that we need to wait until until school starts to have those meetings. So we'll work with you accordingly as well.
Yes. Our community education is down at Bates Elementary off of Baker Road. They are going to be Jenkins is having an information night. That's childcare for our early childhood students on Tuesday, March 22nd. And their enrollment opens April 18th. So you can find details about that. And then we also have after school care at Bates School. And so our students at Anchor and Beacon go into our marketplace where they meet the care providers and are walked down to Bates Elementary, the Bates building, where they have aftercare there. So if you would like more information at that, you can call our community education. Our PTO and volunteers, we love to have volunteers in the building. We're very happy to be able to have volunteers back. There's lots of different ways that you can volunteer, which is really fun for students and for teachers. We greatly appreciate it. Those typically are field trips or special events. We have some volunteers that come in and work with students. And so those opportunities, your teacher will communicate with you as the year goes on. Communication from teachers is weekly per their preference. A lot of them send out a weekly newsletter, but they will communicate with you, so expect that. You will also get a weekly update from us, from administration. So it's called the Deck Digest, and they typically go out on Sunday afternoons, and then they give you a snapshot of what we've been doing, what to expect, any important information that you need. And so Ms. Stidham always sends that out typically on Sundays. We also have Seesaw, Twitter, our website. So there's lots of different ways that you can get the information. I talked about volunteers, and then our PTO. We have an amazing PTO. If you are interested in PTO, please contact. There's a Facebook group. Brooke, remind me, do you remember what it's called? The Facebook group. We have a Facebook group for the PTO, and then there's lots of information out there. We're happy to have you. Contact us if you're interested.
I couldn't find my unmute button there to answer when I was clicking too many things. So currently right now we have two separate pages, one for Anchor and one for Beacon. If you were a member of the community, you know that we are sort of, I guess, merging and doing a lot more things that are aligned moving forward since this new year in January. So we've started having our meetings together. So I would assume that will be in the next thing that happens, as well as they have one consistent Facebook page as well. So more information about that comes in the fall. We also post on there occasionally with our PTO reps. And so you'll see the same thing multiple places, just like this evening. It was on the Friends of Dexter and on the Dexter Schools page, and then on the PTO pages. And so we try to share information so that everybody stays informed. Okay, so what do I need to do next? So the first step is coming here. So hopefully we're answering some of your questions and telling you a little bit more about what school looks like at the deck. And so again, a lot of this is geared towards kindergarten, but it's applicable to young fives and even throughout their time through first and second grade. We have amazing staff that can help along the way. So our next step, starting tomorrow, the enrollment window opens. So we have been warned that if there are some logistical, if you go to click on it first thing in the morning, don't panic. It's the first day of the system and everyone might be on there at the same time. So just be patient if you see some glitches. So that is the next step that you need to complete. In there, you can actually submit all of your documents electronically. And I'll share what documents those are in just a moment. So everything can be right online. It's much different than even 6 years ago when I registered my own daughter, where you needed to have all of these copies, bring them into the printer. You have a phone to take pictures of them or can scan them in, you can upload them right there. So that's the first step. And then we start the process. If you are not a Dexter resident, then you would need to wait until March 7th. That's when our school of choice window opens up. So there's information about school of choice that is all space dependent at each grade level. Obviously, we try to keep families together. So if you are already, I know we have some returning families that are here tonight whose older child are already at Dexter. So we do try to keep families together. They'll have priority as well. Now, because we are virtual this is geared towards parents, but we know that you want to come see the space that your child's going to be living in for most of their schooling career from young fives through second grade. So we welcome you to join us next Tuesday for an open house. So this is a relatively new event. We are thankful that things are starting to turn a corner as far as COVID goes, so that we can welcome you back in. So we will be greeting you when you come in, but it's really a self-guided tour. You can come with your child, you can visit the classrooms, you can see what the space looks like, you can see us in real life. And so this is our primary Q&A time. So next Tuesday will be an opportunity for you, again, just to see the space. If your child is a bit anxious about coming to a new school, I would suggest bringing them along so they can tour it and see it as well. It also builds that excitement for what's going to happen in the fall. I will warn you, once you bring your child into kindergarten, they often think they get to start coming the next day. So they'll think, oh, I get to go to the new school tomorrow, even though they'll have to wait until the fall. If you're interested in half-day young fives, again, that survey opens on April 11th at 10 o'clock. It is sort of a first come, first serve based on availability. If we have more people interested than we have space for, my understanding is there'll be a wait list in case things change in that sense. In the last few years, I believe we've been able to have space for anyone who is interested. But again, I only know from the last few years being new to Dexter. So you've also probably heard of our roundup days. Roundup days are, again, where we used to need all of this paperwork. And now you can do most of that from your home. The one thing that we do need to see for the state of Michigan, we have to see the stamp on your birth certificate or passport. So this is a quick, you'll get a sign up genius that you can pick one time in those 2 days. It should be a 10 to 15 minute window to come in, turn in any paperwork, let us see the birth certificate, if there's any lingering documents. So it's really just to spread out our secretary time to answer questions about logistics of paperwork. So that's what roundup is. If neither of those times on April 13th or 14th work for you, we can figure something else out. But we'd like to have those dedicated times to get all that information in because we are also still operating our school. So there's two things that we're probably be enrolling about 250 students in the next coming months. So it is a big undertaking, and we want to make sure we get every documented appropriately for the state of Michigan. So the paperwork that we need copies of, we need to see your original birth certificate or passport, a proof of residency. So if you are renting, either a copy of your lease and a bill, we need two things. But if you own your own home, we just need a closing statement or tax, the tax document. If you are a birthday after September 1st, this is where we need the waiver. You can either print it off online or we'll have copies there. We check that, so no need to really worry there. The vaccinations and immunizations, we do need an updated copy of that. If this is something I know as a parent, we often have these appointments scheduled in August, right before school starts. We get all of our doctors and dentists and vision screenings done. If we've got an appointment scheduled on, August 4th, then we can, we can just note that and then follow up afterwards. So that won't be, the the end all to get them enrolled. Vaccinations here does not refer to the COVID vaccine. This would just be your regular MMR, tetanus, chickenpox, and those things. And then for the adults who are enrolling them, we would need a copy of your valid license or again, passport. So I did see a question in the chat just about diversity. So as we were talking about, passports, we are actually very, very fortunate right now to have a very diverse group of students. Our theme for March's Reading Month is We All Belong, and looking internationally at who is our school population. And right now we have 17 different countries represented in multiple languages. We do have an EL teacher that works across the district and meets with students in our building. So a variety of languages are spoken as a primary language at home. And she herself has said that the diversity in Dexter is expanding year after year after year. So it is great to see that. All right, so after you get the enrollment and you come visit us at open house, what are some skills you can practice on? Really, the more you can do to help your child with their independence, the better. So if you can help them, by even, picking up your plate and putting it in the sink after dinner. Put your coat on. Can you put both of your gloves on? Can you zip your coat? Practicing with coloring or Play-Doh, if they can write their name, even if it's with a big marker or a highlighter. Practice playing games with them, taking turns, having them follow 1, 2, or even 3-step directions, because those would be often the skills that they'll have in the class. So we're going to let's do this craft together. First we'll cut, then we'll color, then we'll glue it down. So those 3 steps that you could practice at home as well. And then work on some problem solving skills. If they do lose the game, then, that's a bummer. What should we do next time? Should we try again? Would we like to play a different game? Those activities. So again, really all about the social emotional piece. We want to help the young child's their capacity to grow their relationships, to be with their parents, to be with their caregivers, to really manage and express those emotions. So there's a lot of strength in tying social emotional with their academics. So that's really a strength that I'm finding here at the deck. We do have a phenomenal team. We call it our building support team, where we have actually 2 special ed social workers, a gen ed social worker, a guidance counselor, and a behavior specialist. So this team, along with Katie and I, really work to look at how we can meet these social emotional needs of our students. And then we touched on this a little bit previously, but working on following directions, perseverance, and really, if you're noticing that your child is having some of those emotions, it's okay to start naming them and talking about them and trying to think about ways that we can work through them together. That's a lot of the work we'll do in kindergarten, and you'll be one step ahead of us if that's the case. So what other questions? I jinxed us by saying it was so nice to have the sunlight, and now I am realizing I'm sitting almost in the dark again. So that is what happens in an hour on Zoom, folks. So I apologize for that. But what questions did I perhaps miss? Let's see here. I'll pull them up here. So some that I'm looking at. So kindergarten roundup. Again, that is just pick one of those times in those two days to return your paperwork. That's all we need to do for that one. So I think we have answered that. So currently we have Anchor and Beacon. So we do have right now, we're sort of looking at that maybe there will be some changing with programming. We're not quite sure what that will look like in the next coming years. But the more of our teachers are collaborating and working together, if they are housed in a Beacon young 5s or kindergarten classroom, they will most likely follow that pathway and stay. But we are really aligned. So we're looking more, instead of there being an Anchor school and a Beacon school, being one Dexter Early Elementary, you have one communication. We do all of our assemblies together. We do all of our like our March is Reading Month is all together. So we're having that common consistency. So I know that if you've had children coming up through the years, it's kind of like, how does that work? But we will also, we'll work to, if you had a child that attended Anchor and you know those teachers, then we'll try to keep them with that pathway. The first, I am not sure. There's a question here. It says the first few weeks of school, are there helpers on the bus? I am not sure about the bus help. That's something that transportation can talk about. If you are currently not a resident of Dexter, but are working on, you'll be moving in, or you are building a home, there are just a few logistical pieces that the secretaries need, and they can, if you just want to call our office or email the registrar, then they can help with what that looks like. I know we do have a family that is building a home right now, so they just needed a copy of their deed in that sense. Field trips. We love to take field trips with our young fives in kindergarten. With COVID, we really haven't done any of that this year. So we have, we would like to say that yes, those will happen again in the near future. One trip they used to love was to go to Classic Pizza and learn how to make pizza, and they tied it to their how-to writing. But right now we've been having some in-house field trips. We had the science guy come in, and he brought all of his animals, and I had an anaconda on my neck last week. So we have, we try to bring some experiences in as well. So there is a question here about young fives going into first grade and sort of skipping kindergarten. That typically doesn't happen. I think in my tenure, I've saw it maybe once or twice. So typically if you're in the young fives, we ask that you still go to kindergarten, because we know that year wasn't as the same breadth and depth of curriculum of kindergarten.
We do have a question about tips for drop-off pickup line. Is it as bad as they say? It gets busy. It gets busy. However, it's working pretty well. The big thing to remember when you're dropping off your students is that to pull forward, and just to be mindful about where you're at in the parking lot and who is around you. Sometimes we have situations where somebody might park and get out of their car, and it kind of holds up the line for everybody else. So as long as we can follow the protocol and pull up and make sure everyone gets out safely and gets back into their car safely, then it moves just fine. So.
A couple questions about before and after care. That is all run through Bates through the community ed. They do not have before care available at all. After care starts, as soon as the bell rings, the students, the teachers will take them to the marketplace, and then they all walk from our building at the deck down to Bates. And from there, I believe it's open until 6, but they would be able to answer any of logistical questions as far as pricing and time and staffing in that sense. So unfortunately, aftercare is not really handled through our school building, so they would have the logistics there. So there was a question, if your child is already at Jenkins, I am not sure if you need a new birth certificate or not. That would be a great question for our secretary, because you have most of your documents on file that will roll up. If your child is currently a young fives at Anchor or Beacon, they will just roll up into kindergarten. So you won't need any different materials that way. They're already enrolled with us. We have them on file, and we'll help them along their way. Okay. There was a question on here about speech and language services. We do have speech and language services available for any student that they may already have an IEP, or you are working with early on through the ISD or your child's physician. So we have a full plethora of special education services if your child needs them, including occupational therapy, physical therapy, academic support, behavioral support, and speech and language. So if your child is receiving services at their preschool and other setting, those documents, if you bring those to us, we can make sure to just keep that going along the way. Let's see. So there was a question. So if you are new, there is that, you know, what's the difference between Anchor and Beacon? Previously, just to give you a little history, because it was both before Katie and my time, was that we had two different K2 buildings with two different principals that were sort of operated separately. In 2019, they built Beacon, essentially, and so we have now physically been one space. But Mr. McCullough, who was the principal at Anchor for many years, has since moved on to another district level position, which brings with it a great opportunity for change to help merge the two buildings. The teachers, there really isn't a difference between Anchor and Beacon. Our staff all work together. We're using the same curriculum. We're doing the same programming. It was really just different because of the leadership, and they physically were different, but now we are bringing them together. So we are one building, and so your child may be housed in either, but they will come together and have similar activities with all kindergartners. The first week of school right now, we would love to welcome parents into the building. We don't know where COVID will be yet. So unfortunately, we haven't had too many guests and visitors into the building unless they have been planned and arranged by the teachers right now, just because we're trying to protect the health and safety of all of our student and staff. So I would love to say, yes, please walk your child in, but more details of all the logistics of the first week of school will come in August. Let's see. So when do you find out about your classroom teacher? That normally happens when it's usually late August. Unfortunately, we have to wait until we get all of our final enrollment numbers, and then we have teacher assignments, and then you'll get a letter from me and the classroom teacher that sort of talks about, you know, what to expect for back to school. But that's typically just about a week before school starts. You do not have to register kids every year. Once they are enrolled, then they stay enrolled. You'll find out what school that your child will be in. Again, it's really kind of just which wing that their classroom teacher will be in August. If you are an ECSE student, that is correct, that you do not have to re-enroll. You're already part of our system and enrolling on it. There will be an open house in August. Once you know your teacher, then you'll get to meet the teacher before school starts. We'll also have a very similar night to this for new families. So it will be open to anyone. So you can come listen to a lot of the same thing from Katie and I in August. And there'll also be an open house. We usually do a popsicles with the principals on the playground as well. So all of those things. More information to come in August about those dates. If you still are concerned about young fives or kindergarten, depending on your child, I would say you can feel free to send me an email or call the office. I'd be happy to have a phone call with you. Sometimes you just need to chat through it a little bit more. If you do select one option and decide later, no, I'd rather the other, we can typically make that work. We've had that happen a little bit this past year as well. So if you, I would say if you're at all wondering or on the fence, I would gear towards choosing young fives then, and then it will always be easier to move into kindergarten than vice versa. If you move to Dexter after the enrollment period, you are guaranteed a space into Dexter schools. Jenkins, we've mentioned that a couple times. That is our preschool program. So that would be if you right on Baker Road. So it's across the street from Bates, which is another one of our buildings. We're all in this nice little pod together. Okay. So I think we've answered almost everything here. Again, we hope to see you, depending if space allows, for you to come join us next Tuesday on March 8th for our open house. And if you have questions about Young Fives Kindergarten, I'd say follow your gut. If you're not sure, then Young Fives is probably the best answer, but I'm happy to answer any of those questions that you may have there as well. Okay, just looking at a few more questions. If you choose the half-day Young Fives and would like to go to the full day option, that would be okay. It would be much more difficult to not sign up for the half-day option because space is limited for that. Well, thank you again for joining us today. We will post this video recording if you'd love to listen to us ramble on again, but also the slideshow, so you have the clickable links so that you can email the nurse or myself. Again, I am Brooke Stidham, the principal. Our email is like my last name, stidhamb@Dexter Schools, or Katie Hakela would be happy to answer anything you have as well.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for coming.